You're listening to Kate Palmer from sparkletart.com.
Hi, I'm Kate Palmer and welcome to my craft room. I spent a little time last year doing a really massive cleanup and reorganising things. It's been about 6 months now since I did it, and I'm really pleased with the way it's all turned out. It's been really easy to keep clean, and the ideas that I implemented to try and keep it that way have worked really well. I thought you might like a little bit of a look. I did promise this a while ago, but sadly for me, I ended up in hospital and then ended up with deep vein thrombosis on top of everything else. So it's been a bit of a longer recovery than I had actually planned. So this video has been a while coming. It's a really wonderful thing being able to connect with people all around the world who share the same interests as I do. So thank you. I'm about to show you around my craft room. It's a pretty small space, but it's what I have to work with. Luckily, I do have my own space. It's not a room. It's 2 nooks beside a walkway through my main bedroom, actually. But I've made really good use of it, I think, and I really enjoy creating in here. So, yeah, have a wonderful creative year, everybody, and I hope you enjoy seeing around my craft space.
Now here's a quick reminder of what my craft room used to look like. You can see it's one hell of a mess, and it's pretty dingy looking, and there's piles of stuff everywhere. I'm about to give you a closer look at the completely useless space at the end of the room and the really horrendously awful and ugly craft desk that I had to work with. Now there's that many things in here that to show you it all at once would take about an hour. So I'm going to split it into sections, and today I'll be showing you how I've set up my craft desk. So as you can see, it's just a little space between a walkway. The double doors at the end are the main doors into my bedroom, so this whole section is a walkway. It needs to remain clear. So I've got both sides of the walkway. And last year, if you were following my blog, I spent a little bit of time reorganising and redoing things. So this section is where I create. Come and sit down at my desk. What I've done is I've set it up so everything I will use the most and need to access the most quickly is right at my fingertips. So it all starts with this big old desk that I have. Now this is one of those really old office desks, but what I've done is I decided not to buy a new desk because there was nothing wrong with the legs and the frame. It used to be brown and it was pretty old and disgusting. So what I did is I painted all of the underneath of the desk, the legs and all of the sides, with a white gloss enamel paint, so it's something really tough. And then I have recovered or re-laminated the top of the table. And as I've gone for a high gloss finish, you can probably see it reflecting pretty much everything here. And it's just plain white, so it's really easy to sort of see if it's dirty. And then I've edged it with a piece of brushed enamel edging, which was a lot tougher than the actual Laminex. So if I bump into this and sort of knock it with things, it's not going to matter. I took the Laminex off my old desk and then just put this over the top with some really strong glue. And this has made a huge difference to my workspace. It's really brightened up the whole room, and it's really easy to keep clean. I just wipe it off with baby wipes. And because it's got such a high gloss, if anything gets stuck, like a little bit of glossy accents, it just scrapes off with a fingernail. So it's fantastic. Now what I've got on here is a couple of cutting mats. So I have a nice square cutting mat over here that's got sort of inches and centimetres on there if I'd like to use that to measure or to cut. And over here I have my cutting mat where I've stuck down a layer of craft mat over the top. Now I've got a video on this that I've done previously, so I won't go into it. But it just means that I've got everything at my fingertips, whether I want to spray or trim, it's all right here. Now on my desk I just have what I'll need. Now I'll put up a quick picture of what I used to have on my desk, what it used to look like. I think you'll agree it's a big improvement. My desk now only has items that I used in almost every project and things that I need to get to quickly. Now I've tried to use all of the space I can, so I've got things tucked in almost every little nook. I have 2 big lights over my desk because the ceiling light is just from that one tiny little downlight and it just does not give me enough illumination to work. So I've got some of my cards that I've been sent from people up on a little display rack here, a little bit of wall decoration up the top here. I've got space in here for an art canvas when I'm feeling brave enough to create one, and a bit more decoration in the other corner. So what do I have here? I've got all my favourite pens in this little unit here. Now that spare space at the bottom is where my keyboard goes when I'm creating. Now this was just made out of MFD. I've painted it with the leftover whitewash paint that I had from creating my spray units. Now if you sneak around the corner, you can see that I've put 2 hooks on the end, and this is where I'm hanging my most used double-sided tape. It means that it's within arm's reach and all I have to do is lean over and grab it. My Copics are all in this wonderful acrylic unit here, and this is, I believe, specially made for Copic markers. And you can see they can sit horizontally, or if you've got 5 of any one kind, they can also sit vertically if you wanted to move the shelving. Now down here you can see I've got my stickles, and I've got a little dot of colour of the actual product on the end of each bottle, so it makes it really easy for me to figure out what's what. So I'm just going to sneak in closer here so you can see that. And you can see that I've got all my stickles lined up here. Now I know I don't have as many as some people, but these are the ones I really like and really use. I've got some of my Viva paper pens, and they just sit in here and just sort of sandwich them in as you need them. I have a wonderful range of stationery stored in this little unit, but what's really special about it is you see those little brown shelves? They're all removable. So if I ever decide that I'd like to reconfigure what's in here or need a larger space than what I currently have, I can just take out a shelf, making this really extremely versatile. I've got some paper towel on a roll, just so it's nice and close to my bench, and then I've got my ideas journals. So anything I'd like to write down just very quickly, whether it's writing down the products I've used so I can list them on my blog or the YouTube channel, or just page sketches and my Copic journal. But around the corner here, I've got all my colour charts for my Copics, so I can find them when I need them and match them to papers, and all of my Lindy's products as well. So each one has its own little tag of colour. You can see these here, just so I can find things really quickly when I need them. And they will just hang on the back of this unit here within easy reach. Now I've got all my Copic markers here, and I've made it so that this is high enough, or low enough I should say, so that I can reach the top level with my hand without having to get up out of my chair. So while I'm sitting here I can just reach over, grab the colour I'm after, wherever it might be. They're all lined up by name and by number. My husband makes sure that they're all lined up the same way. And that just makes it really easy to grab anything that I happen to need. This is another strategy I'm using to make sure things stay neat, because it's easy to put them away. To get to. Now down the bottom I've got my Letraset markers. Now these are the aqua markers from Letraset. And it's just sort of like a liquid watercolour almost, but it's in a marker form. So again, they're just something that I like to play with every now and then. And up here I've got things I don't use all that often. So I've got my stamp board, my spare tags, and all the acrylic blocks for all of those different size stamps. Next to that I have some punches and some sort of odds and ends, but I haven't really populated those drawers yet. If you come down a level, you can see here that what I've got is little boxes stacked on top of each other. And if I go backwards a bit, you'll see that these carry across here, and there's another couple on the other side. So what I've done is I found a building site where they were ripping all of the Laminex out of an office building and just throwing it away. I liberated some of it with permission. I did ask first, and I've used it to make these little boxes. So what I did is I measured my desktop here, and I have split it exactly into 3. So each of these boxes are exactly the same length. So if I wanted to, I could sit them all next to each other. But what I've done is I've put a single board across the middle to make sort of like a shelf to put my computer monitor on. And that way I can hide a few things underneath. So you can see I've got my ink pads and some papers here and my stencils. I've also got these two little shelves on top, but what I've done with those is I've made them exactly half the height of the larger shelves down the bottom. That way, if at any time I'd like to reconfigure my craft room, I can either put these beside them on top, I could stack the two in the middle and then make a section across the top that's exactly the same height, so they'd all be the same height. I can sort of put them in a whole lot of different configurations. What I've found is the minute that I buy something specialist, something that will only fit in one spot and I can only use for one thing, that's the first thing that I no longer need, or that I need to get rid of when I want to have things moved around. This is the side I don't use quite as often, so I've got some of my larger art journals back over in here. I've also got my journaling ephemera folder, sort of pictures and stamps and things that I might like to journal with at some point. My journaling stamps. And I've got these little binders that I've just bought from my home office supply store. And they've got plastic pockets where you can put your own colours and covers and all that kind of thing on. So I've just made my own with some stamps and some craft paint. You can see that I've got a backing board on the back of each of these little cubes that I've made. I also painted the edge with black gesso, so it wouldn't look quite so rough. They're not even square, to be honest, but it doesn't really matter. What I've got in here is all my pencils and brushes, and they fit beautifully into, it's actually a cutlery organiser from the kitchen store. So you can see they're all lined up back here, and what I've done is I've put some of that, you can get it to use in kitchen drawers, and it's just sort of a plastic separator that you cut to size, and that allows me to keep them separated by colour without really having to do anything fancy. It keeps the brushes separate from the pencils. I've got my Inktense pencils at the back, my watercolour pencils, which I adore, and of course my Prismacolor pencils, which is the thing I use most often, so they're at the front. I've got my brushes sorted into all my big ones at the back because I don't really need to use those quite as often. All my little ones at the front, and my real cheapies that I can use for gesso and things sitting here just so I can grab them. And this just sits in here, it just slides, doesn't need anything special. And it almost fits exactly, so that's fantastic. And I didn't even need to do anything, it's just a little bamboo holder. I think it cost me about $10. So as you work your way across the desk, what I've got here is a glass cutting mat so I can cut my stamps out, and an extra couple of little mats so I can sort of spray and put acrylics on. I've even got a little metal mat there for when I want to pound things. And they just sit next to this acrylic display unit. Now I was lucky enough to pick both of these units up when one of my local stores closed down, but I did ask the store owner where she had got them, and she said that shop fit out suppliers carry these kind of things and that they're not overly expensive. So if you'd like to sort of stack up a little and you don't have the skills to make things yourself, like me, I'm not a particularly handy kind of girl, then a shop fit out supplier might be something that you could look into. So in here I've just sort of got my brayers, a water bottle, my glossy accents that I use all the time. I've got all of my paper pads in the back as well as my Copic journal, and next to those I keep all of my distress ink pads. In here I have my templates, masks and stencils. I've got all of the 6x6 ones at the front here, sort of loosely grouped by manufacturer, but it doesn't really matter that much for me. I've got some of the 8x8s, some of the little masks, then I've got a bit of sort of the extra large tags and a few sort of bits of cardy sort of stuff, and then I have my 12x12 stencils at the back here. And what I've done just to keep things neat is in a little folder here I've got my off-cut bits of cardstock and sort of scraps that I use. What I've started doing is making most of my scraps into tags. That way they're sort of a bit different than the usual and they're ready to go. And I don't have all that scrappy cardstock left over. In here is where I keep the journals I'm currently working on. You can tell there's a couple missing. I've got them out at the moment. I've then got this 12x12 paper rack, which again, chipboard, I bought on eBay. So I got something really cheap. Covered it with black gesso, just the same as my storage unit, so it all matches. And I've put paper on this on all of the sides so that if I ever decide to redo my craft room, I won't have to redo any of this. In here I've just got some washi tape and some of the cardstock I use on a regular basis. So I've got some of my Ranger specialty cardstock, my LeBlanc cardstock, my plain card for making just sort of your average sprayed backgrounds, my Express It blending card, some of my coordinations and my Tim Holtz, and of course my much loved Eclipse Black and watercolour cardstock from the Paper Temptress, which are two that I just couldn't live without, just down here. Now this side of my desk is basically a cat laying area, so it stays relatively clean unless I'm sort of piling things up. And I also use this, I also have my cuddle bug sitting here, so I can just sort of place it over here when I need it. On this side, above my drawer unit, I've got my inks, my Neocolor crayons, my metallics, and my watercolours. Now these are all in little bamboo boxes, and the top box is smaller than the bottom box, so it can slide along, so I can get to things easily, and they just slide out as I need them. Now what I've found for me is if it's all in just the one little tray, and I can just grab the tray I need, put the tray I need just here on my desk and work from that, and then all I have to do is put everything back along with the tray. It makes things much easier to keep clean. There's a few more of these little drawer units. I haven't really had a chance to organise these properly yet, so there's just sort of odds and ends in all of these. Underneath my desk I have my nice big trimmer, and then on this side I have a little set of drawers, and you can just see under here, off here I've got hanging all of my tools. So when I want to get to them, I just grab this little unit, and it's on a hook up here, and I just take the little hook off and grab all of my tools. So they're easy to get to, but still out of my way. So in the drawers, down the bottom I have all my heavy stuff. So I've got my excess sprays, my mists, and my tie-dye inks. This one, I haven't really decided what to do with this drawer yet, so I'm just keeping my Cuttlebug plates and some of my larger chipboard pieces in here. In here I've got my random stationery drawer, so this is the stuff that's either I don't use very often, or as you can see I've got some bits and pieces that are still in packages because they're my backup supply in case I kill something. And then in the very top here I've got my pan pastels, just so that they're easy to get to. So again, everything that's next to my desk or near my desk is the stuff that I might want to get to quite quickly. Now down on this side I've got two roll-out drawers here on little wheels, and they just fit perfectly underneath that bottom drawer. There's no point wasting space. So I've got my Ranger dabbers and my Jenny Bolin dabbers in here, plus my Distress sprays and inks, and of course my dilutions, and they just roll away. So basically what I found for me is I get very messy when things aren't easy to clean up, so having all of these little drawers just makes it very simple to put things away. So starting from the top here, I've got some of my golden paints, my baby wipes, so that they're really easy to get to, and I often craft with this drawer just sitting open so I can get to the baby wipes here. Moving down, I've got my Lumiere paints, which don't like the heat here. I've got the embossing powders I use most often just sitting here. I've got my Ranger alcohol inks and my patina inks, and what I've done is I've put little white dots on the patinas so I know which ones are which. I've got my Inca Golds sitting over here so that they're easy to get to, and my Ferro Colour. Next drawer down I've got my golden products, my Ceram coats, and this is also where my Distress paints live. Now what I did is I've gone to one of the cheapy stores and got this really cheap drawer divider. They use it for sock drawers and things like that. What I had in here previously was a whole lot of little shoe boxes and things, each with a different paint in there, but then of course the shoe box itself takes up space and makes things a little bit heavier. So what I've done is I've just put these plastic things in here. Now they don't fit perfectly, they don't need to, but it just helps to keep my products separate and from rolling around without adding any extra weight. And lucky last, down the bottom I've got my tools, my spare tapes, my scissors. There's actually my scissors under here. I don't have a lot of fancy scissors, just plain ones, batteries and sort of foams and stuff like that. And around the corner, hanging off the side of my desk, I've got my heat gun and some little clean-up tools, just sort of out of the road, but again, where I can reach to them without having to move from my desk. So by now you've probably figured out that everything in here is geared towards the lazy crafter. That's me. But I hope it's given you a few ideas for setting up your own craft desk. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.